All right, Nicholas, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Maybe you can kind of run the agenda today, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, go ahead. Sorry.
So in this call, we want to quickly talk about possible improvements around CBOM. We had collected already some points that we want to address in a future version, and it would be great if we can first kind of collect our opinion about if we want to do that, where we want to start, and maybe also an estimated kind of, how long it would take to do that, maybe to have a rough idea which release we can expect it. Yeah, and then the next meetings we can go into the details and really talk about the details.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, do we want to kick off with the certificate properties or
Yeah, I think from my point of
something,
view, yeah.
or do we want to kick off with use cases? How do we want to proceed?
I think from the timing and what from the priority which we facing from the IBM side, it would make sense to start with certificate properties. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there would be other people from other companies here, then we could
That's
discuss
fine.
that. But yeah,
Let's go with certificate properties.
perfect. Good. Nice. So there is a repo. Navani Spasi, do you know if they already merged to discuss changes in the repo in some of those files, or is it just the?
They published, I think, 2 versions of it, right? One was like conforming to our initial version of the CBOM, right, which was the fork of 1.4, and then another one that was kind of compliant with the 1.6 official release. And I think that was some feedback that we gave them, right, and what they did, and yes. There are these 2 versions there.
We can't hear you, Navani, if you say something. Sorry. Yeah. I was wondering if they already updated the changes we suggested to the repo, because then we can just look into the repo, and otherwise we have to go through the email kind of discussion and this one document we had. But I don't know what they said last time. So
I pasted the link with the end of these are some comments that they had.
yeah, that's okay. But that's still the kind of the old version, I guess. Or maybe they refined it. I don't know. Yeah, let me. We've at one point we wrote a Word document, a PDF with an answer or a suggestion to the changes they made. I just have to find it. Okay. Then, okay. I think the first thing they wanted to do is adding the certificate serial number to the certificate properties. I think I'm correct, if our discussion were correct, we said that this is fine. But still have to find it.
There is a there's they have a cryptographic properties 0.3 schema. Oh, my
Yes.
camera's really flaking out. I don't know what's going on.
Just quickly checking if you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to turn my camera off.
Okay. So I just quickly opened the .2 and the .3 changes they made. Do you have any more information about the .3 Gaussian Navanis? Because I think when we looked at it and wrote the comments, we just looked at 0.2. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I haven't looked at the most recent one after the last call, where we suggested also certain changes, especially additions with certificate properties. I haven't had the time to look at it yet, though.
Okay, no worries. Yes. Okay. Then maybe just go. Let's just go through to the comments we had and the things we think we all agreed on. So like I think the serial number was the first thing where we said like, yeah, from our side it would make sense. They suggested it, so it would make sense to add it in general. But things that we were unsure and maybe they weren't sure, we can discuss them with them in one of the next calls.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I see the description in the schema as being a 40 byte serial number. Is the serial number always the same length?
That's a good question. I'm not that familiar with certificate serial numbers.
I think so with X509 certificates, but I can double check and get back on that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right now in the schema we have it's not restricted to a certain number, right?
Do we have serial number in there today? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I know we have like the OID.
Yes.
Oh no, that's something that they added, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there is the. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing serial
we don't.
number.
No.
The one thing that we'll have to verify for the serial number is whether or not that 40 byte serial number, if it applies to all X509, that's fine. But we also support PEM, DIR, and CVC. How does that work with those other formats? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if I mean there is a serial number as part of the BOM metadata, right? Already now, which is probably not the same as the certificate serial number.
No, definitely not the same. That's the serial number and version in the metadata section, or right above the metadata. That forms the identity of the BOM document itself.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they kind of meant that this is a serial number that could also be used for the X509 serial number, which is obviously not the case.
Yeah, it would be good to get, in their test schema, they've got a title of what it is, but they don't have a description. So I actually don't know what they are trying to describe with the serial number.
Maybe just a quick question before we continue this discussion. I don't know if you do that, Steve, because you did it last time, but I could also do it now. Having kind of a fork, and then just adding the changes we discuss here. Are you already doing this?
That would be ideal. No, that would be
Okay.
ideal, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yes.
let's why don't we what would be easiest? Why don't you just fork the repo and work off a there's a 1.7 dev branch. Work off that branch.
Okay. I hope I have the right repo.
The other thing we can do is actually we could just it's up to you whether or not you want to create your own fork, or we could have a dedicated feature branch just for this within the specification repo. What would be easiest? Because we normally have the dedicated we normally have the dedicated branch. However, you know, that's not going to give you the kind of control you want to make changes. Everything will basically have to be a PR, and you'll kind of have to wait for me to merge it. So it's really up to you.
Yeah, I think we can do it as you suggested in the first place. So just check out the 1.6.dev, I think, or dash dev.
Yeah, 1.7 dev. Yeah.
1.7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Does someone quickly know how do I get the URL of my git remote origin using the command line? Is it minus
git remote minus v?
V. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just wanted to check if I have the right. Yes. Okay. That's the right one.
While you do that, Nicholas, to answer the part about X509 serial number, so I briefly looked at the RFC. So it says the serial number can be a maximum of 20 bytes, but there is no specific limitation on what you can do below 20 bytes. So we have to also understand why they have this 42 byte or 48 byte size for serial number. But as I think Steve said, it's not just X509 certificate. So we will have to look at also the other formats, and if there are restrictions there.
All right. No, that sounds good.
All right. Okay. So there we go. And so we had something serial number adding here like that, and having it as an, I think it was type string, wasn't it?
Yes, it is a string.
Yeah.
No, they have a pattern on it, but I think we just validated that the pattern is not going to be valid for X509.
So from, okay, title, I think it's just serial number, I guess, but please.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you think. Okay. From the description, is it now serial number related to X509 or to a certificate in general?
That's a really great question.
I think a lot of these properties that are suggested are specific to X509, actually. I mean, also those that we have, like subject name, issuer name, they are quite specific.
Yeah. So if it's X509, I think you can also state that it's a unique identifier for the certificate issued by a specific certificate CA.
Okay, so should I write that what you said in the last time? The last.
No, I was just explaining what serial number means, but I leave it to you all to decide if that is the right description for the schema.
I mean, for me, it sounds like more precise than what I just copied in here. So if that is correct, then we can just add what you said.
So you can, yeah, if that's okay with all. So then basically a serial number is a unique identifier for the certificate from a specific CA. So it's unique to a given CA, but it's not unique across CAs. So it's just an identifier, right?
For a CA or to a CA?
It's a unique identifier for the certificate issued by a CA. Yeah.
Okay, so like that. Okay. Then so I hope I don't know if you still see then what you see, because I just shared the editor, but I try to find now the next part in the spec, so I switching windows. So
You see the editor.
okay, nice. Then it works actually. That's good. Okay. So I think from the document we have then this app identifier.
Which is then a metadata, right?
Yes. Yes. And then there's a fingerprint part. So did you understood the discussion after our first initial, suggestion that we just reuse the hash object in the mails, Navneet? Because after they respond, I didn't understand what they meant with the label, basically.
Yeah, I think in the call that after which the one you couldn't attend, I think they were in agreement with what we were suggesting. So not necessarily that we do it their way, at least their understanding. This is how I gathered info. But I think we also have another meeting and potentially can get more insights from what the consortium thinks.
Yeah. Okay, but then we can just put it in as we saw it, and then we can review that with them, and if they disagree, then we can switch.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So I think what we suggested is, did they remove it from here? Did some changes? Okay, never mind then. I think I don't know if the order is important, but otherwise I would just put it now at the end.
For JSON, no, the order does not matter.
Yeah, no, I meant more in the sense like where they put it, but I think in general.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I always this type is in this case it's an object, and then we have this as a reference, so we take the definition of hash as a reference for the item. Then we can add title and description afterwards. Something like that. And then we have title and description. So yeah, please feel always free to say something if you disagree with what I wrote. So title, I have certificate fingerprint, which I guess should be uppercase if I
And
look.
definitions
one.
hash is something that you now defined new, or is this something that already because I think there or is this definition new of hashes?
So hashes is not new. This is already used for the hashes, I guess, of the components.
Yeah.
And there's basically just a key value pair of, not key value pair, but kind of a pair of two values. One is the algorithm and the second is the value, so the hash value. And I mean, in this case, it's then the hash or the fingerprint hash for the certificate. I don't know how it's actually named in the certificate world.
Yeah, so I mean, the hash will have a an enumeration of types. SHA-1, SHA-2, 128, 256, MD5 is one of them. Mostly NIST algorithms. We are adding one non-NIST algorithm in 1.7, but if there's another fingerprinting algorithm that isn't a hash, then it wouldn't be covered. And I don't know if that's a thing or not.
It will
So
be
from what
only a hash, right? But I mean, there will be, I think in certificates there can be different fingerprints, like of the certificate itself or of the whole certificate, and the fingerprint of the public key as well. No, don't know if maybe it can be an array of fingerprints.
But wouldn't then be the fingerprint of the public key in the public, so in the related crypto materials for the public key? Wouldn't that make more sense to add it maybe there then?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we have a direct reference, right, to the public key, and which again has a fingerprint.
Yes. I mean, not yet, but we could add it then. Yeah.
Then we would have to add hashes as well to the related crypto material.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so then it would maybe make sense to make this a definition. Or what do you think, Steve? If you have duplicated, so 2 times the same objects, and you create normally a definition for that, or is there other style convention?
No, yeah, I mean, so you're doing it correctly, so that's fine. What we're trying to do is when we're reusing an object, do not include the title and description if they are the same of the thing that you're reusing. But in this case, they will be different. So the title and description will need to be there.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay,
that looks fine.
And then I would copy this one for the related crypto material, not creating kind of an object or something.
You would what?
So we wanted to have also the fingerprint into put it also into the related crypto material. And I was just thinking because I kind of copy that, but we would have to change the title and description if there's a way to outsource it as a definition and then reuse. But I think that wouldn't make sense if I think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to end up with the same amount of code regardless, because the title and description are going to be different for the related crypto material too, correct?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So just copy it then and use it here. Okay.
So yeah, if you want to be precise, Nicholas, so this is a cryptographic hash of the certificate, excluding the signature.
Yeah. Okay.
So the fingerprint is basically
Okay.
Please go ahead. No, I was just saying, if you want to be precise in the description, so the fingerprint is a cryptographic hash of the entire certificate, but excluding the signature itself.
Okay.
So the investors in Kubernetes, they have some tutorials and so on. So I gave them, they did it, leveraging work of other people. So they were saying,
you can just say
Okay.
cryptographic hash of the certificate excluding the signature.
they are basing it on
Okay.
some
Yeah, I
other
just was wondering how to write entire. Wow.
thing from the scheduler, as far as I remember. And then they were also reusing like the project from this guy who was doing his PhD there. But yeah, there are no
Like that.
evidence that anyone is
Yeah.
using that. They didn't put
Or
it
excluding
in
its
Okay.
signature, maybe. Because,
Ah,
And I somehow gave them 0.5
Nope.
for external partners and users, assuming that maybe Kubernetes then by definition they can.
okay. So then we do have here the red crypto material, and there we can add also fingerprint. I think fingerprint here is fine. So should I just add for the asset, for the cryptographic asset? Does that make sense? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, cryptographic and cryptographic having it 2 times in here gets a little bit off.
You can just say hash,
They
I guess.
demonstrate
Because,
of taking some
Like
research
that.
where we started.
Okay.
They
hash
use
of the
some
cryptographic asset
studies,
instead
like
of for.
the
Maybe.
project, we put it into trust, we care, then we start something else. It's like, okay,
Sorry?
let's.
Is it off or for the cryptographic asset? I don't know.
know.
Basil or Steve.
So it's
Have an opinion.
some reuse of.
I don't know either. But
Big off.
does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. I was waiting for you to answer again. Yeah, so off makes sense, I guess.
The main thing that should
Okay.
drive this
Okay.
course.
Okay. After that, we had the whole thing with the state.
One question, I think more for the team, it's because of my lack of understanding. Is there a way in the schema to specify restrictions on the sizes of values for strings, for example? Or would that be something that just goes into the description rather?
Yeah, we can put
Yeah.
limits on the how long the string can be.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's
absolutely.
what I.
Okay, so because the reason I asked this is going back to a previous discussion on serial number for X509 certificate. So the RFC states that it cannot be longer than 20 bytes. So maybe that's something then if we can capture, we should capture for the serial number.
Sure.
So translating this to a string, what does it mean?
Bringing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started to look into it. From this point of view, I was a bit.
Yeah, because it's captured in hex typically. So
Yeah.
that's 2 times the string
I mean,
bytes.
Which is probably why they put 40 in there, right?
Which 40, that makes sense. Yeah, now that makes sense. Exactly. Yeah.
okay. So where do you saw that with 40? Because I looked at the .0 and I couldn't find anything around the serial number with restrictions. Or am I just see this pattern there.
Yeah, they put a pattern in there, which is going to their pattern is going to looks like limit it to 40 bytes or character. Let's see, what will this do? What will their pattern do? Regex in the morning. I don't know. Let's make a note and come back to that, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point. Okay, I mean, I don't know if I can trust it, but basically what the big AI says, it's a pattern specific for MAC addresses,
Oh, really?
what they put in there. Yes.
Okay, all right.
So it enforces basically uppercase and numbers, so uppercase until
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
19,
upper,
yeah.
yeah. And then having after 2 letters, yeah, dot, or how to call it in English, I don't know.
They probably don't count the columns, right? In the 40 bytes.
Yeah, they don't call, definitely not, yeah.
So I guess just making a note and to do behind that makes sense.
I think
Or
so,
what do you
yeah.
think?
Yeah, I think it makes sense, because if you also add colons, then it's actually plus 20 bytes, because for every hex representation for 1 byte, you have a colon that's separating it. So
Yeah.
so
Is
we
there
may
a
have to
way
revisit this. Yeah.
Is there a way to annotate to-dos? Is it like this, like they do in Java, or what do you normally use, Steve, in JSON?
I normally just put the to-do in the description itself.
Oh,
But it's up to you.
okay. I will do it like this because that looks
Yeah.
very familiar to me, but yeah, I wasn't sure if
Exactly.
there's
No, that's
something.
fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I don't care about, yeah, those.
Okay. Okay. So we had that, and then so there I already forgot what the discussion was about the certificate lifecycle. So they mix something up with the standard, if I'm correctly, with the phases and
Yeah, we took one of the NIST standards for certificate lifecycle.
yes. Yes, so this is the graph from the NIST standard.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah, I believe that's we support all those, I believe.
but as part of the related crypto material, if I'm correct. Because in certificate it's not part of that. You don't have a state there. Yes, there's no state. I think the state thing we only added here, and we have pre-active, active, suspended. Yeah, I think that's the same as we have here, pre-active, active, suspended. Yes, that's the same. Okay. Do you remember what was the result?
Yeah.
No, I don't recollect the result, except that they will revisit that based on what we suggested. But I do not know what the outcome was. We'll have to look at that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this we have to review. And then there was this discussion when we have a state, you also have this date related to the state, but I think that was also not finite. That was final. That was something still in discussion.
We didn't have an agreement on that either. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with the revocation reason. I think they took some also from a standard. Yeah, blind VS X509 specification. I think that was the thing we had when we looked through it. You said that we have to look if that's actually the things that were also mentioned in the X509.
Yeah, that's right. So this also needs to be revisited. It to be done.
Yeah. Okay. And key section removed. Okay, so there we don't have to add something. Nice. Okay, I think then from what was my last state? We're through that. What we could definitely add, and I think for the next meeting we could then discuss the points we had now also to discussion.
So there was also some discussion around additional attributes to capture for X5M certificate specifically, and that's to do with the extensions. And there were a few recommendations from our side in particular, which we need to mandatorily add, like subject alternative names, for example, right? So because now I think there's even an expectation that the CN has to go to subject alternative names. And there are a few other extensions, I think more optionally, but at least the question then is, do we want to have the ability to capture them at least? And there are a few which are quite relevant. If you're interested, I can also go over some of those. So you.
Yes, I just thinking because of the interest of time, if we want to do that next time together with them and just having a quick discussion about when the next, like the Cyclone releases, so we may know when we could earliest expect a release, so that we can tomorrow tell them kind of, that would be, if that makes
sounds
sense.
good to me. Yeah, sounds good to me. I just wanted to make the point that there may be other implicit properties we may want to capture. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point.
These are X509 extensions, right? Mostly.
Exactly. Yeah. Basic constraints, and I have a few like key usage, extended key usage, authority information access. So these typically come from the certificate themselves. Although some are optional, some are mandatory, like subject alternative names. And then there's certificate policies. There's also, I think, for the CA browser forum basically states all for all browsers to accept a certificate, you also need to have a signed certificate transparency log, so SCT. So that's also typically part of certificates. The question is at what level of detail do we want to go into to capture these all of these different aspects, but they are anyway inherent properties of the certificate. But that's a discussion we can have.
Yeah. I mean, where we
general an option to have these as a separate object defined, with extensions or optional.
Yeah.
Also,
I think
because this is now about X509, which will cover probably 90% of all certificates that are used, but there are still some other formats, right, with some different terminology and maybe some different attributes.
Right.
So probably differ.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask.
I think it is also an exercise for us to quickly find out from the extensions which of those are mandatory, because some, although go under extensions, are mandatory. So once we, I think, also make the distinction, we can put the mandatory field as a part of the core certificate properties, and the rest, like Pascal suggested, could also be moved into an extension option, which is entirely optional of sorts.
I mean,
yeah, makes also sense for myself. Just I think maybe a good heuristic, but that's just my point of view. You can disagree. In terms of how we figure out if something is maybe useful to capture, coming again from the use case perspective and what they need to fulfill this use case. And for example, if they need for the Adora compliance, something like that, this information, then we should definitely add it. Otherwise, we could still, but I think at some point we have to, I think that's also the idea of the Cyclone Standard. I don't know, not to add everything, but more like coming from the use case. But please, Steve, if you have other view on it.
Yeah, I mean, capturing the use cases is always useful because they ultimately lead to, our way of communicating how to use the specification in the authoritative guide, which we've also developed. So the use cases are kind of important. Now we can debate whether or not it's more important than the things that we already know that need to be done. I honestly don't care how the group wants to proceed. If the use cases are more important, or actually just fixing the parts of the specification that we know we want to improve, and then coming back to the use cases. I don't have a strong opinion either way. So, you know, one thing we might want to think about is just capturing what what you're kind of seeing in the hearing in the field in terms of different people adopting it, and just kind of capturing that in a maybe in a Google Doc for the time being, more of an unstructured type of document, and then we can always come back to that.
That's a good point. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Sounds good.
That's good. Right. Just maybe quick question around the CycloneDX release. Is there some kind of timeline for the next release that I don't know what will be in there and what will then be the deadline for the the release after that, so that we can just give an estimate of. I think they still their thing is they want to have something before, but it would also make sense to align that was what they want and what they discuss in their internal one with the standard outside. And if there's a bigger gap, then there could be more discussion and more changes around that. So just to give them a rough idea of when it can actually be standardized.
Right. So it will be next year. I don't know when next year. There are a lot of efforts. We currently have 5 feature working groups that are working on different things right now. Real briefly, we've got one working group that is working on a concept called blueprints, which is a combination of high-level architecture, so being able to describe an application or a system at a high level. No, we're not trying to reinvent UML or anything like that. But just providing a high-level architecture of how something is kind of put together, along with bill of behaviors. So what does the thing do? And once you describe what it does, you can then do like anomaly detection in that sort of thing. So that's blueprints. The second thing that we're working on is that we've aligned all of the leaders, the people who write the books, the people who write the tools, both open source and commercial, in the threat modeling industry. So we've assembled folks that have that have actually built all the different threat modeling methodologies, for example, into one place. And we are aligning the entire threat modeling industry on the use of CycloneDX. So you'll be able to describe the use cases. You'll be able to describe all the different types of whether your asset threat modeling or process threat modeling or some other type of threat modeling. You'll be able to do it for security use cases. You'll be able to do it for privacy use cases. A bunch of other things that we're working on there. Another group is OSS sustainability. So this is kind of a twofold thing where we want to be able to provide the consumer of an SBOM the ability to the ability to discover open source projects that maybe they have a kind of a large reliance on, and the ability to kind of provide information on how they can give back to that project. Likewise, we are simultaneously thinking about the idea of allowing maintainers to assert that sustainability information themselves in their own repo. Think of like a security.md, for example, right, where they control that. Same concept. We have a patents working group that is currently discussing how we can incorporate patents and intellectual property into CycloneDX. I believe this group will likely be short-lived because I think we have an easy button, a way out, whereby we discovered the existence of an existing specification, and it is very, very robust. So there's no need to recreate that wheel. So might turn into more of a add an external reference type of exercise. So that would be great. And then, of course, we've got this group. Now, will all of these things be included in 1.7? We're trying, but realistically, 1 or 2 might actually fall off. So anyway, that's all the work that's going on for 1.7. All these groups meet, pretty much every 2 weeks, except for this one, which is every week, I believe. And we don't have a timeline for 1.7 release as of now, other than it's going to be next year.
Okay.
Now, more than likely, just like in 1.6, we had an OWASP release, and then that was followed up by an ECMA release. So in order for us to get an ECMA release by middle of next year, we would need to get the complete specification into the hands of TC54 by the end of March, because the ECMA General Assembly votes at the end of June. That time frame we're not going to make. However, and then likewise, they've got one at the end of the year in December-ish time frame as well. There is ways that we can do it out of the normal cadence. However, that's kind of an exception. But we're still going to have, the point being, we're still going to have an OWASP release of 1.7 before the international standard release.
Okay, that sounds very good. Then we can, update them also about the expectation, but I think that that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. All right.
Very good. Well, great call. Great seeing you guys again. And I will catch up with you next week, I guess.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Steve.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.